Good morning everyone, Anthony Tharp again. I'm just doing another video to update you pretty much on where we are in terms of the presentations. A reminder that these videos are being done so you have a comprehensive idea of what's going on, not only with this case, but how they function in the Supreme Court and the judicial process, possibly in the other courts, typically involving a lot of corruption, underhanded behavior, immoral behavior, unethical, professional behavior, and outright fraud, just corruption, taking people's lives for granted, and it must be because of illegal rewards, one way or the other. So this morning we're just here to go through a few items. It's 10:22 a.m. February 2nd, 2023. And it's a great day so far. I'm getting a little late start because the lawn people are here making a whole bunch of noise and I didn't want them in the background. So here I go. One of the first things, thanks everybody that's been subscribing and really appreciate that, and liking the video and passing it on and sharing it. Because remember, our ultimate goal is to build a community among concerned persons who have the same goal of cleaning out the corruption that is going on in Jamaica, and us working towards cleaning the Supreme Court is one of the first moves, because once we clean up the courts, I believe that we can move on to implement the same strategies in cleaning up the other corrupt areas, plus the signal will be sent with the right strategy and systems in place to other people who would be contemplating become corrupt and cheat people out of their property and lives, to cease and desist or not even try it at all. And again, my original attitude towards the whole thing was these people need to resign, and they shouldn't be in government, but they need to go to prison. They're part and parcel of the criminal enterprise that's operating in Jamaica. It's not just about gangs on the street. These people operate in places in plain sight of the law, and they're committing crimes and hurting this country and hurting its citizens, and they shouldn't be allowed to just skip out and get away with it. Most of them, when they commit a crime, crimes of this nature, and they abscond, they leave the country with a lot of resources and leave the people they have hurt and taken advantage of in dire and despair in terms of their economic aspirations, as well as their health and the stress that's related. Because I said stress is a killer in this business of dealing with the courts, especially when you have persons that are unscrupulous and you go in there knowing beforehand that you're dealing with a bunch of crooks. Always making the disclaimer that we know that there are people there who are decent, law-abiding people, but just as I've said before, if these decent, law-abiding people sit around and know what's going on and don't take action to correct it and protect themselves from being the targets of smear and exposure, and nobody can guess that if you've been working there for years, then you don't know what's going on, and if you keep quiet and it's still going on, then you're part and parcel of the whole corruption, regardless of it, whether you're directly involved or you're just complicit sitting watching it unfold. So either way, you need to step up and step out and make people know that you are not in favor of the actions that's been going on in the courts and taken against people, especially pro se litigants or self-representing litigants. So that said, again, we need those people to step up. Good citizens of the country, we need you to step up as well. Sitting quietly at home on your nice verandas overlooking the sea and enjoying that breeze is not good enough. You need to speak up, whether openly or quietly in the background. Send letters, emails, anonymous statements and letters. Call your precinct, your police stations. Speak to the lead cop there and let him know you're not in favor of all of this going on in your country, and they need to start locking up these people, because it is a crime. It's no victimless action by these people. They're committing crimes, and the police as a whole tend to ignore it for one reason or the other. And I'll go further. I think some of the reasons they ignore it because they know these persons who are endorsing these crimes are themselves in law enforcement, and whether in the courts, whether it's in administration of the police force itself, whether in the Governor General's office or the Governor General himself, and they sit there quietly and make things happen without interfering. Now, the Governor General is pretty big in this whole scenario, because whether it's conceptually, theoretically, or just imagery, or what you call for vernacular purposes, he's put in charge of pretty much the judiciary, because the judiciary typically under the Constitution is not even a Jamaican judiciary. It's the House or the Court of the Queen, now the King, I guess. So we need to get rid of that nonsense as well. We in Jamaica, it should be a Jamaica court system. And while it tends to serve our purpose, we also need to make sure the psychology of who we are is not smashed because we believe we have to be overseen and managed by a foreign entity, especially one that's, tied up in history as being one of our oppressors. And though we can't live on that, we must advance ourselves. But the psychology of thinking or having our people think that they have to subjugate themselves to a foreign power, especially again one that was involved in our incarceration as captives who they labeled as slaves. Because my theory behind it is that we were never slaves, except if you accepted the position. Most of us were captive, we were forced to work. Some of us were hurt, maimed, killed, and we fought back. And this is where we take off our hats to the Maroons and all the other people who fought, who were in plain sight of the plantation owners on the plantation, and still engaged with the Maroons, collaborated, and eventually landed our freedom, which we won. It wasn't given to us. Jamaicans, Haitians, we fought for our freedom. And so we must recognize that freedom is not just sitting and accepting the nonsense that's going on around us. And because it's being committed by people who look like us, it means that we shouldn't be taking action. In fact, that's when we need to take action with even more severe consequences against these people. People who look like you, who claim they're you, and have your interests in heart, who are robbing you in plain sight of the law and everybody around, and know it and figure they're going to get away with worse than any foreign person that would do that. And this is not about race, because if it was about race, these people would not be doing what they're doing to us. And I don't see any foreigner from a different ethnic background or racial background down here oppressing us. And if they're even doing it, it's never about race. It's always about economic power. So don't get fooled or dragged into that whole racist scenario. That was a system developed, an economic system, I would like to label it, that was developed to separate people, keep them divided, create racial hate and disparities between the groups, and then end up so we hate each other, and while we're there fighting each other or scared of each other, the hidden hand is there empowering themselves at our expense. So I'm saying to all people that are hearing me now, the so-called racial issues that exist around the world were deliberately and are being deliberately spread to create hostilities between our own people. And I say our own people because I looked at a statistic thing the other day where they did some genetic work in the US, and they said 20%, at least 20% of the US population has, not 20%, they say most of the US population, the significant majority that label themselves white, have about 20% what you call other ethnic groups within their bloodline. So typically, if we go according to their own definition of the one drop of blood concept, they would not be considered white. But I'm saying that not to feed racism, but just to point out to you that here we are, people who are cousins, who are related to other people that are classified from different races, are fighting each other, don't even know it. I am in Florida and I drive in the South. I'm pretty sure you hear about the rednecks, and the concept is rednecks are a bunch of hostile persons of European descent who hung out in the swamp, driving in mud buggies and drinking beer and, you know, eating coon and wild and all of that. But the thing is, and you see them driving most of those big trucks, you know, we stereotype them, of course, which is not true. But in any event, these so-called rednecks, when you look at a lot of them, they're darker than I am. You see my skin tone, look at my face, the color, the melanin. They're actually darker than me when the sun hits them, and I'm always laughing when I see them out there carrying on and driving around with that flag there, the Confederate flag on there. Deep, and I said, do these people realize that they have more melanin than me? Meaning there couldn't be all of that. European or white. So again, don't feed into the racism. It's an economic system that was developed to create a division between races so that they steal from us while we're distracted doing everything. And we remain poor, they become rich and powerful. So don't feed into it. And the other thing is that if you notice, when people of different ethnic background and races live together in a community, the vast majority of them get on, no issues. In fact, they become very friendly. Kids grow up, kids don't even think of racism unless it's fed or taught or educated, or it's some part of their education, informally or otherwise. So let's not waste our time, our lives on that. Look out for it, because it's a dangerous thing to your existence and your life. And try and avoid it. Avoid people you think you can trust, but you can't trust. So this way, you know, you live a good life, but you don't help to create or foster this whole racist concept. Because in fact, the racism of the kind we discuss these days was exported from the US to Europe, believe it or not, by the skinheads in the 80s or 70s. So and that's why when you had black soldiers leaving the Americas and going to fight in Europe, they had a better relationship with Europeans, they're whites, and the hostilities weren't there until the American leadership, including the military, took action to educate Europeans that they shouldn't treat, especially black military persons who were in Europe, with contempt and hate and all of that. So going over that quickly, let's not fall into that trap, because we're not here for that. It's never about racism. This whole economic issue that we're going through with our damages, it's about a bunch of greedy people who operate corporations in the US who are trying to defraud us of money that they owe us as a result of their own neglect and negligence, and decided that they were going to pursue a route of oppressive behavior against people. And when they couldn't win, they created a scenario or a strategy of malicious behavior. And so I'm going to go right into that, malicious behavior. And one of the things I want to point out right away is that to show you that they were the intent of these persons from day one was to use the courts, because they know they had control, especially in Jamaica here, the court as a means to damage us. Because in so doing, they knew we were doing major projects. We showed you the permits in previous videos. We showed you glimpses or renderings of the massive real estate projects, and I only showed you one. So if that one was 14 million square feet with about, well, you're looking at 3 towers, but actually those 3 towers were accompanied by 2 more towers that you can't see on this layout or the site plan. So imagine if on one project we were able to generate a projected income of $4 trillion over a 16-year period, and the project itself, the real estate itself, would have been worth well over $7 trillion on completion, not trillion, $1 billion on completion. What would we have done in terms of the other projects? So what these people did, they knew we were doing this, they knew we had permits, and yet they went around and took action to destroy those projects. And one of the parties who did that was John Graham. Now, one of the properties that we're developing is a joint venture property that we signed and purchased the what is called the development rights. That means we have all the air rights everything above ground going up, plus the right to develop the land itself, the real estate, which air rights is also classified as real estate. So we actually own it. And what they did, they went there and told the principal on that particular property that he's not to do business with us because we have had an injunction placed against us. So that gentleman, out of fear or whatever foolish reason, he decided he was going to play hardball and claimed he was going to wait until we completed or we got rid of the injunction before we could go forward. And when we did get rid of the injunction, what he wanted to do, we had an original plan to purchase or pay him the balance on the development rights of 6.7 million US dollars. At the end of the day, after he held out and stopped us from going forward on that particular section of the project, which we believe we could pursue without being interfered with or hindered by the injunction, and he took advice from attorneys from Capital One, John Graham, and possibly Mr. Trevor Hallin, and refused to allow us to go forward. So rather than creating any issues, we said, all right, we'd wait. And when we did get rid of the injunction, when Justice Beswick finally removed it and we went to start working, he said no, he wanted to change the agreement. No, he wanted, instead of the $6.7 million, which was way above market value at the time, and plus we had paid him already what is now an equivalent of about 25-30 million Jamaican dollars for the development rights. So we actually own the development rights. We were going to pay him a balance and stuff. In short, the agreement was made, money was transferred or changed hands, so technically we own the development rights for that property. And what he did now, when we went now to say, all right, here you say you wanted to wait, we went and we met with him at his house, and now he's saying instead of the 6.7, which we agreed to in writing, and the reason we wanted to pay in US was, and we agreed, is to avoid any escalation, or if the dollar value shift, it wouldn't affect us, it wouldn't affect him negatively. Now, so he wanted now to blackmail us, saying he's not going to accept the $6.7 million again. He wanted 18 point something million. So of course, that's a court issue, because technically we own the development rights, we have the permit for the property. And so again, just pointing out how these people are malicious, and each of these actions create friction on a project that we didn't need. And it also affects how we can do developments in Jamaica if these people aren't dealt with. Because here we are ready to go forward with a project that's viable. Paid him over 20-something million Jamaican dollars, and with a balance of 6.7, which we were going to include in the budget. And the purpose of moving forward was that we were going to initiate marketing the project on the commercial side, going to lease arrangements, long-term lease, what we call ground lease arrangements, raising the capital to pay him up front. And now he put a monkey wrench in the system because of what these guys told him. And in fact, we know that's what happened because he said it. He said it, and that they came and they talked to him. And he went out as far as saying to us, oh, John Graham is my boy, John Graham is my boy. Saying, in the sense that this is his person of choice. So again, we know the nefarious activity of John Graham was a heavy hand in creating this situation, because he couldn't win, didn't see how he was going to win. So now he's going to destroy the project, destroy me, destroy my partners, and destroy the economy. That's how selfish the bastard is. He's going to destroy the Jamaican economy to get back at us in a case that he couldn't win because he was engaged in fraud. And as a matter of fact, when the appeals court ruled on the matter and said it should be dismissed, and we went down to get it dismissed, and we saw John Graham coming applying for injunctions, one of the things I raised was, what is he coming to do? The appeals court already ruled. That's because he knew he was coming down to commit all kind of fraud, and because he had people in his pocket, because he seemed to have the run of the court. And as I said, he got even more dedicated to his nefarious and illegal activities when Justice Sykes took office. So you can figure out what was going on. And here is a letter from Trevor Hallin, which was sent to Business Ventures and Solutions attorney when they were trying to extort money from us, even though we had an agreement that we were sticking to it. We didn't break any of the agreements we had. And the appeals court ruled on that and in agreement. There was no breaking of any agreements. I just want to read. He's saying he does, however, appreciate that litigation will ensure that the project will fail, as no investor will have any confidence in him while this is happening, as he states in paragraph 3.2. Because I had said to them, listen, you need to stop because you're affecting our project. And here he is stating in a letter that was sent on the 5th of March 2007. That's from when they knew about these projects, right? As I say, you knew about the project from we signed the contracts. And then later on, Alexis Robinson is in court, saying I'm trespassing, and they know nothing about the project. In fact, John Graham tried to come up with that mess as well. But it was Trevor Hullin who brought on John Graham. So he must have reviewed the files and everything and knew that we had a project. And the other line he did when he said that was because Mr. Boots Brown, I don't know if you know him, is a musician. I think he's with Third World now. Boots Brown actually signed leases that he wanted space in the development, and it was Boots Brown who introduced me to John Graham one Sunday, telling him what Capital One was doing and that we needed to pretty much stop them in their tracks. John Graham took all my documentation, went to Kingston, never heard from him about the project again, and the next time we saw him, we saw him on the other side of the bench, which is unethical. There's a conflict. You took my documents, you took my information, we sat there, you interviewed us, or we spoke together about the project. I bought the beer, he drank the beer, lying. And then he went to the General Legal Counsel and say, oh, he never met me, he never knew anything about projects, all of that. And when the General Legal Counsel contacted us and said, oh, he denied all of this in affidavits, we provided evidence to the General Legal Counsel of not only that we met, but emails back and forth, and how we sent him documents and discussed it and all of that. And yet the General Legal Counsel is going to make a pronouncement that they don't see anything wrong with what he did. He didn't commit fraud. Because one of the things we wanted to point out that he was now filing documents that he didn't know about this, and that we were committing all kind of stuff when he was the one that was doing. And I said we provided evidence to the General Legal Counsel, and they let him work without prosecuting him. And that's why one of the problems we have with the judicial system is that the General Legal Counsel itself needs to become an independent body devoid of attorneys. We don't need any attorneys on there. We need civic-minded people who are honest with ethics and moral standings to oversee those kinds of organizations. Because there's a conflict. How are you going to have an attorney regulating other attorneys? Doesn't work. And that's the same problem we have in the judiciary in itself, because here, why so many people have a major distrust of the judiciary. For example, the appeals court, the chief judge of the appeals court sits on the Judicial Service Commission. I mean, part of the decision-making process. He also participates in selecting people who sit there. All right? So here we have a bunch of people who you file charges against, and they're the very people you have to get their permission to appeal, get their permission to deal with complaints about them. And so, hence the reason I said, for us to really fix the system, we have to get rid of that whole corrupt system that was put in place by the British, so that when people took action, they would just internally squash it. And that's what's happening here, that a lot of the illegal activity that takes place and comes in front of these committees, the Judicial Service Commission, is squashed. And I state that because as I've always said, I filed documents in court in order for me to have a say-so at the end of the day. I said, listen, you know about it. I filed documents, tried to get you, didn't take action. And the only way to register that you took these actions against these people, to inform the general public and the population and anybody that sees this, is that they knew about it, they did nothing, and the reason they did nothing is because it's all this cronyism that goes on. So the relationship between the chief judge and the Privy Council, the chief judge and the Judicial Service Commission, the chief judge and the Governor General and the Prime Minister, all of them are entwined in this so-called selection of persons. And in fact, I believe even politicians sit on the Judicial Service Commission's board. So how are you going to have them overseeing cleaning these agencies? Even the DPP, not the DPP, the public defender, because you have a public defender's office that's separate from the DPP's office. Even that body, I think you have politicians sitting on. Why would you have politicians sitting on a board that's supposed to liaison and oversee things between government and the population? That's where the corruption comes from. So here's a document. It's a claim form, as you can see, filed in the Supreme Court. And if you look at the parties that's on the claim form, properly filed. And don't you know, this claim hasn't been called up in any regard. And this is a claim in which the service processor that I used to use, I'm going to try to find his name as a matter of fact. For the first time he served everybody else I paid him to serve. I gave him a bag of money and the papers to serve. He said he served it, or served it to some, because he said he left it at some of them offices, and which is permitted because they're representing corporations, so it could be left there. He said it. I asked him to provide me with the evidence of that service, and the guy disappeared. I haven't heard from him. I don't know where he is. I don't know if he just took off, if he was threatened, whatever. But the fact is, again, coincidences. So on this claim, which is SU 2019, what's that, CW or CV 04818, that was the claim. So again, you could look it up if you want. SU 2019 CV 04818, and the claimant is Anthony Tharp. And I did that because, again, wanted to put records in the public domain and be able to identify these persons who we filed documents with, who had a responsibility to fix the issues, and they refused. So they've been very quiet, no comments, nothing from them. So the Jamaica Constabulary Force, we filed against them, of course, because we filed the documents with them and they did nothing. And this was about being complicit, and there were agencies that should have been protecting the citizens from crimes like this. The Minister of Justice, we filed against them too. The Chief Justice of the Jamaica Supreme Court, which is now Justice Sykes. We filed this when he was the Chief Justice, as you know, because this is 2019. The General Legal Counsel, the Governor General of Jamaica, the Integrity Commission, John Graham, Stephanie Graham, Justice B. Morrison, Justice Kirk Anderson, the Jamaica Supreme Court, and Alexis Robinson, and the Jamaica Supreme Court Deputy Registrar Angwin. That's the one that was refusing to reset the matter when it was her responsibility. I haven't heard from her or seen her. I don't know if she's still even around. But again, somebody was asking me in one of the commentary to list the persons. So again, these are some of the persons, but I have a long list of parties here that I think it's necessary for the police to investigate those parties for being involved with the conspiracy, directly or indirectly, or they must have known, and did nothing to stop it. So again, just showed you the thing from Trevor Hallin, where they stated in that, we're going to take legal action, and that will teach you a lesson, because it's going to destroy your project, because it's going to drive away investors from your development. That's how cruel these people are. Then the further activity showing that they were malicious, which was done recently, was here Alexis Robinson writing to our Miles Fletcher and Gordon, again on the same letterhead I showed you yesterday, where they were talking about the appeal. So you see it's from, and if you look at that designation up there at the top in the middle, that's the file number or the docket number that they filed. So you know it's in the court. So again, everything is in the court, but yet these law enforcement, the Chief Justice, everybody is pretending they don't know what's going on. Even when we raised this issue, when they filed about we were trespassing. So it says, "Dear sir," and this was March 11, 2021. "Dear sir, we trespass at 15 Queens Drive, Montego Bay. We act for Business Ventures and Solutions, Inc." Again, we act for Business Ventures and Solutions, Inc., which we went through and know that's fraudulent. We didn't retain him. "A company duly incorporated under the laws of New York." Well, that's correct. But again, Business Ventures and Solutions, Inc. of New York was not the Business Ventures and Solutions, Inc. that we did business with. That was Business Ventures and Solutions, Inc. in the state of Florida, which is a foreign corporation in the state of Florida. So this, again, was a fraudulent move on their part to fool the court or the person, the trier of the facts, to say this is action is being pursued by the New York division or franchise of Business Ventures. So that in itself is deceptive, wrong, and falls under the same act we've been citing from we started this, the Law Reform Fraudulent Transaction Act of 2013. And so, okay, we act for Business Ventures and Solutions, Inc., a company duly incorporated under the laws of New York, United States of America. And I remind you again that the U.S. law has no bearing in Jamaica, right? Justice G. Morrison specified that in a ruling, plus the Constitution, sovereignty, all those issues. All right, they can come down here and put, but here again, they're emphasizing the U.S. And the registered proprietor of the captioned property comprised in certificate of title registered, and I don't go through the book. So that's the property at Queens Drive. They're saying they're the registered proprietor, meaning Business Ventures that they have from New York is the registered proprietor. And remember, I think I did show you the title information or the street information on the title as being 6726 3rd Street in the state of Florida. So again, there's another lie. The state New York corporation had no ownership interest in the Florida corporate property. And remember, they took measures to withdraw that Florida corporation, so it technically doesn't exist again. So they can't be now claiming the property. It doesn't work like that. Our instructions are that you, through your agent, servants, are trespassing on the client's property and have commenced construction of a building and perimeter walls. And that's us working when Justice Beswick removed the injunction. They went and filed a second one when they were forced to withdraw the second claim, and that wiped out the injunction because they applied for it to be pulled off. We started to go to work again on our projects. This is 2021. So each time we try to work on the project, they pull these stunts just to frustrate the process, just to be malicious, just to destroy our credibility in the marketplace. Because when people see a project start, stop, then it raises issues and questions. So it was a deliberate move to defame us as well. And this is the letter to prove it. Our client has reported the trespass to the local police and further hereby demand that you immediately remove your agent servants from the property, cease construction and cease the trespass, including immediate demolition of the structures you have erected at your cost and at the times convenient to our client, its local representative, who will facilitate your access to the property for that purpose only. I laugh because access to the property, we have always had access. We have the keys, we have the guys over there, the machetes sleeping over there at night, and more rock that we can use to defend ourselves. The people around there know who is in charge of the property. The police knew because we filed reports to the area and cops already and told them this illegal stuff is going on, and we provide them with evidence from the court, all of that. So they're going to facilitate me. You see the audaciousness of these people. All right, so again, the malicious, they cannot win, so they went and kill, destroy us. And then they sent us a following letter. Now, this is a letter they sent to the police at Area 1, which already knew about all of their activity which we produced, because from the time they were trying to sell and before that, when they did all of that stuff, we've been filing complaints. And in fact, even before we were successful in the 2012 ruling, when they served me with a summons or the claim form and particulars, we were getting calls on the site, and their own person that we're paying to stay on the site to distract us told me that he recognized the voice of the person and it was calling from a Mr. Trevor Hollins' office, because they would call and tell the person, is Mr. Thorpe there? Don't tell him who's calling. So I went to Area 1 at that time, because you know what goes on in this place. I don't know who was that. And I'm like, they know where I am, they know who I am, they have my contact information. Why this skullduggery thing? So I reported it to the Area 1 cops that day, and even the gentleman at the Area 1 cop said, well, he knows Trevor Hollins, why would he be doing this? That's a cop knowing him, and say he's going to talk to them. So, just to show you. And okay, this it's styled Business Ventures and Solutions Inc. P.O. Box 61964. Look at the address. P.O. Box 61964, New Orleans, LA 70161. Remember, they gave about 5 different addresses so far. Now they're talking about New Orleans. This is the Business Ventures and Solutions Inc. I remember, under U.S. law, each state regulates and manages its own corporate entities, and if Business Ventures and Solutions Inc. Of New York is doing business in New Orleans, it would not be Business Ventures and Solutions Inc. It would be a Business Ventures and Solutions Inc., a foreign corporation. So again, if you didn't know, I'm letting you know. And we went through documents before showing that relationship. And it says Summit Police Station. This is March 3rd, 2021. So it's just down the road. No, not even 6 months or 10 months ago. And this is after we won the case, after Justice G. Brown made his ruling, after we transferred interest and ownership in the property to other parties. Here it is. They're filing this document. And it's supposedly styled by Steve Rapier, the agent or employee of Capital One. And so it says March 3rd, 2021, Summit Police Station, Sunset Boulevard, Summit, St. James, Jamaica. Dear sir, real property at 15 Queens Drive, Montego Bay. Business Ventures and Solutions Inc., BVS, is a company incorporated under the laws of New York, United States of America, and the registered proprietor of the property comprising certificate, and it goes on to describe the property's legal description, so I won't go into that. The writer of this letter is the president and sole director of BVS, and is duly authorized to make the report on its behalf. Kindly see enclosed copy of certificate of incorporation. Last week it came to our attention that a building and a wall are being constructed on the property, which was previously vacant, save for the old derelict building. You hear the lie, it was previously vacant. It has never been vacant. We have always had people on site there carrying out work, cleaning the property. In fact, even the parish council sent us letters once asking us if we could make sure that the lot was kept clean and the property next door, because of potential illegal activity. And we were always driving people out of the bush that were moving in there and sleeping over there, because again, we didn't want anything dangerous happening to anybody. And in fact, a lot of times when people go to the property because of what was going on with these people, I tell them, wait until one of my persons could go there with you, or there we can arrange for them to be on site. So this notion that the property was vacant until 2021 or thereabouts. So anyway, last week it came to our attention that a building and a wall are being constructed on the property, which was previously vacant save for an old derelict building. A new building is being constructed in front of the abandoned structure situated on the property, and the wall is being constructed along the property's perimeter. Kindly see enclosed images. This is being done without the permission of the registered proprietor, BVNS, and we hereby make a police report of the trespass and ask you to investigate and take all necessary steps to have the trespassers removed. There is no authorized representative of BVS in Jamaica, and so we have engaged Guardsman Group Limited to assist with securing the property, and hereby authorize them to liaise with you and on our behalf. Please do not hesitate to contact the writer if you have any questions. Your urgent response to this report would be appreciated in light of the fact that the principals of BVNS all reside outside of the jurisdiction of Jamaica and are therefore not in a position to physically do more at this time and to put an end to this trespass. And it's signed Steve Rapier, President. Should you continue the trespass, our client is prepared to pursue both civil and criminal proceedings against you without further reference to you. That was the previous. We look forward to your immediate removal from our client's property. And this is Alexis Robinson, Myers Fletcher and Gordon. All right. So they went and filed stuff with the cops, thinking that was going to. But anyway, it was illegal what they're doing, and they know we're just trying to intimidate us or create a situation where the cops now will go over there and intimidate or even harass the people that were there. But fortunately for me, the cops themselves were more astute and more intelligent. They looked at all the documentations, and in fact, the officer said, if you have any issues with them, please contact us so we could aid you. So I want to thank those officers there that did that. So from that point, when I met with them, everything I filed in court and filed with these people and they sent to me, I actually CC the police at Area 1. So they have a big old dossier. And even when I went there the last time I was in the island, when they went there and fenced the property when they thought I was dying, I went in and they said I brought a dossier thick just in case the document was removed, and the officer said, no, we have everything on file, we've reviewed it. Our boss is an attorney or was an attorney as well, so he reviewed it, and in short, go do your business. In fact, a couple other cops came and said, your property, put on a lock or take off theirs, whatever you want to do. But they gave you a fence. They gave you a good 8-foot fence, because we were just contemplating fencing the property as well, because we were going to start doing construction in January, and we wanted to secure the premises, because before we'd put stuff over there and they'd go over there and steal it. Don't know if these same guys were doing it. So, and when they started to put up the fence, my first reaction when the guys there called me was, you're not going to go down the next day. But then I thought about it. I said, why would I run? So I told them, wait until they finish putting up the fence, then let me know, and we'll deal with it. I just tell them, don't put no 4-foot fence. I told them, tell them, don't put no 4-foot fence around the property. And I spoke to the fencing guy, and I told him, you're not authorized to fence. I can't stop you, but don't mess with my people. And so he said, not there to do that. He was paid to put up the fence. That's what he's there to do. I said, well, go ahead. But when it comes down the pipeline and we have to go to court, or the trespass really is spun legally, be aware that you're part and parcel of the trespass. All right. So anyway, after they couldn't succeed again and they wanted to damage us, they went and they published in the local paper, the Mirror. I don't know if they did it in any other paper, but this is a legal notice. And the legal notice published a formal order that states that there was an injunction taken out against us in 2016. All right? And including the injunction that Justice Beswick had removed. So this again, malicious. They can't beat us, so they're going to try to discredit us in the public image. This is never done. And they publish it with giving the people the impression that it was the Supreme Court that published it. That's how I found out about it. Was an accountant in Montego Bay called and said, Anthony, you see the papers? The Supreme Court published legal notices about you and getting injunctions. So that was their move. They knew this would people read it as the Supreme Court publishing. Of course, the Supreme Court had nothing to do with that. And again, these are the things that Justice Sykes allows, because I contacted him after that and said, this is what's in the paper. Did you authorize this? Did anybody authorize these people? And nobody did. There was no orders for them to do it. So they went ahead and did it themselves. And one of the problems with this, apart from it being used to maliciously destroy our character and our business, it was published in the Mirror. And you know, the Mirror, the problem I have with that now is that it was published, and this is one of the days it was published. It was published for several days. April 20th, 2018, westernmirror.com. So, and now the Western Mirror is publishing this for these people. And when we gave them this story that these things were lifted and we won the case, they're talking about they're scared to publish it because they don't want to be sued. Sued by whom? So you see the difference. Because these guys are attorneys and they're flashing around money, I think, and the Western Mirror, Mr. Smith, is scared of publishing what we wanted, and here he is publishing that in the paper. And Mr. Smith, do you know I could have sued you? Can still sue you, as a matter of fact, for not correcting the misinformation there and destroying our character. So you can check down at the courthouse. Me sue over everything because I want it on public record, and I was nice enough to you. And you're going to say you can't publish the story about the fraud that's going on, but here you are publishing a document that's destroying my character, my business, my partner's business, destroying the economy, the very economy that will help your paper grow. All right. So you need to step up. And again, here's the Guardsman report that we discussed in the previous video, where they went and did an investigation about me and file it in the public records. Never done. So again, why? We also had showed you again the whole thing where they filed an illegal claim in the courts of Florida saying I owe them money, again, to destroy my image and steal the property. So I'll wind this up quickly. So again, to just let you know the nefarious activity that these people are engaged in. And I just wanted to read this quickly, just an interjection. I was searching for this document the other day, couldn't find it. Hopefully you can see. Sorry. You see what's there? Alright, remember we told you Capital One is the lead conspirator on the conspiracy to defraud us and all of that. And we filed in the court records, I say Exhibit A, handwritten. And this is in front of the court now, you know. And we wanted to file it because we wanted them to know what Capital One is doing is nothing new. This is what they do as a regular basis to rob even their own clients in the United States. It says U.S. Trustee and Capital One Bank, USA, NA, addresses monies improperly collected in bankruptcy cases. See, we filed a Chapter 7 to stop them. They went and filed an illegal claim that I owe them $600,000. Then use that illegal conversion to try to steal the property under the Alexander Burnham Trust, which now they try to sell for $1.5 million. That's all criminal conversion. That's illegal money. It's fraud. And Alexis Robinson and all of them are involved with this. John Graham, Trevor Olin. And it says Washington, D.C., the U.S. Trustee Program, UTPS, program, announced today that it has entered into a settlement agreement with Capital One Bank, USA, NA, same one, Capital One, that if approved by U.S. State Bankruptcy Court for the District of Massachusetts, will resolve USTP allegations that Capital One sought to collect debts that had been discharged in prior bankruptcy cases. So they were trying to collect money that wasn't owed or owed to them. And of course the trustee program, so they were acting as trustees for these particular clients, which is what they did try to do in Jamaica. We'll come down here about the trustee for the Alexander Burnham Trust. We have nothing to do with them, But because of the similarity of the name, the trust did not come and say, oh, we owe them money, or they have a right to our property. So here it is being confirmed by the U.S. trustees, all right, that Capital One engages in this kind of illegal theft, larceny of people's property and money. Under the settlement, an independent auditor will examine approximately, here it is, 650,000 Capital One's customer accounts. So you see, this criminal does business with volume, because volume makes you money. So you can imagine 650,000 client accounts, and if they got $1 off of them, but I'm pretty sure they tried to rip us off by 1.5 million, right? So if imagine 650,000 people's accounts robbed by 1 to 5 million, and I'm saying some of these accounts are $1 million accounts, some of them probably low accounts as well. But imagine the Alexander Burnham Trust is a multi-million-dollar account that they're managing, and so the activities they're carrying on now, when they do anything in terms of trying to say they're representing the Alexander Burnham Trust, they're sending them a bill. So they're ripping off this New York State Trust using us and trying to rip us off in the same game, you know. So 650 customers' accounts, the feds were going to investigate to ensure that the money is improperly received by Capital One. So it's not saying if, it's saying the money improperly received, so they took the people's money already, have been and are immediately returned to the depositors or the debtors or their bankruptcy estate. The auditor will also approve reimbursement to debtors and trustees for actual out-of-pocket costs and expenses, including attorney's fees incurred to contest erroneous claims. Capital One filed approximately, and there were about 5,000 proof of claims seeking payment of debt that had been discharged in the prior bankruptcy case. I remember I showed you the proof of claim. This is what they filed. A proof of claim in the bankruptcy court, which is what they did with us. Same illegal activity. So you see, these guys not only nefarious, committing crimes and illegality, but this was a common practice on their part. And we showed the courts in Jamaica that this was a pattern that they used and they continue to use. And yet these judges just ignore it, because what Capital One did now was come down here, but they have a debt that they filed in the US that they know we didn't owe. I didn't owe. The trustee that should be protecting me allowed it. So just like how my trustee allowed it, whoever trustees they had here working with these debtors or the petitioners allowed Capital One to file these. And when people complained and they were busted, 650,000 accounts that they probably ripped off, and they're sure they ripped off at least 5,600 proof of claim seeking debts in discharge bankruptcy. So it's just like we said that, the estate of Alexander Burnham was closed. There was no estate to be probated. The same estate that Justice Morrison illegally gave somebody an appointment to become administrator for something that doesn't exist and he doesn't have authority to. The same thing here. So that's why I said in a previous video yesterday, John Graham and all of these Jamaican attorneys didn't have the intellect or intelligence, covert or not, to engage in these kind of activities. And here is the game plan. From this to the game plan of using Russian mob strategy to rip off people's property, which we discussed already. So here again are these people, these co-conspirators and conspirators committing a crime, and it's backed up with evidence that this is what they do on a regular basis. And again, this is all in front of the courts. All right, so I won't even read the entire thing. Just wanted to show you that. Oh, and one other thing. I filed a claim against John Graham, listing him in the U.S. bankruptcy proceedings when he started to file affidavits and all of that, supporting this claim that I owed money. So I filed a claim against him. And of course, that's the one I told him a trustee was saying, Because he's a trustee, it's a claim that he'll have to file on my behalf, and he didn't see the reason to. And the reason I have this and filed it in the Jamaica courts was because, as I said earlier, John Graham went to the General Legal Counsel and said he knows nothing about anything, especially a bankruptcy in the US, and he had no knowledge of it. And so I whipped that out and showed and provided it to the General Legal Counsel and said, guess what, this guy is lying, here's a proof. Not only did I file a suit against him in the US, but here he was, Capital One's attorney was filing to represent him in the matter. All right, so again, you see the corruption and all of that. Of course, Miss Angwin, as I said, malicious activity. She knew the matter was to be reset, and this is a letter to Registrar Angwin, who refused to set the matter. I sat in the Supreme Court a whole day waiting to see her, and she refused to see me. And I wrote, she refused anything I wanted to do with this matter. So she's part and parcel. And one of the persons, the fraud squad or the financial investigative division must interview. I wrote to Mrs. Wellington, the registrar. And I don't know where Mrs. Wellington is on it, because when I get there and I'm in front of her, she does give the information, and she used to try to set matters. But after I said Chief Justice Sykes came there, Mrs. Wellington just went on a silent mode. Can't even get a response from her. So is she under threat, or is she now part and parcel of the whole operation? So again, people, see what we face and see what Jamaica face, because I say it's not about us alone. All right, these are the people we believe law enforcement needs to question and to take into custody. Some of them, they need to question Mrs. Morris, Veronica Morris from Holding and Morris. I don't think she did anything illegal, but they need to question her because she has answers as to why they didn't allow the matter to be dismissed, or how John Graham got into the matter after the court told her this matter is to be dismissed and they have no standing. So I'm not saying Miss Morrison did anything wrong, but she's a party of interest that the court, the police, all of them must question. The Integrity Commission. Trevor Hullin, same thing. Trevor Hullin's problem with this now is that the police said they invited him to interview him, and they couldn't find him, or he refused to come. Problem with Trevor Hullin, he did several affidavits with a bunch of lies, which again is in contempt of the court's orders, as well as he's committing perjury. So why would he perjure himself? So they need to ask him about those things, and those things are in court, as I said. And I just read where he filed something about taking legal action to interfere with our projects and our investors and driving them away. Justice Mangatal, who is now in Cayman, the police must investigate her and the Integrity Commission. Why did you give an injunction against a party who the appeals court said was without blame? They were the victorious party according to the ruling of the appeals court. Why would you give an injunction? She needs to explain that, and needs to explain why she told my attorney at the time, what's his name? Johnson. He's a criminal lawyer, he works out of Mobay too. And Mr. Johnson, it's on the court record, why he told Mr. Johnson that he shouldn't take advice from a client who was telling him to tell the judge merely that none of the parties were local, they were all international parties from the US, and the court had ruled against them, and we're just here to have the matter dismissed. Why would you tell somebody, that judge and lawyer, or not to take instructions from his client? Because that's what she said. Justice Evan Brown, why did you give that injunction when the court ruled that these people have no standing? And only give an injunction, but gave one that, until this matter is settled. So that means these persons are tied up indefinitely on an interim injunction that should last 28 days, but by wording of the order. And that's what I talked about, how these judges use these loopholes to change the rules. because an interim injunction is supposed to last 28 days, then it's supposed to be reviewed. He didn't review it, he just says he's going to grant it, even though we're present. There was no discussion around the injunction, why it should be removed, how is it in contempt of the appeals court orders. He just says he's going to extend it. So Justice Evan Brown needs to explain that, and every judge who did the same action needs to. So, but I'm pointing to this person here because I was there when he did it. Justice Sykes, obviously. Justice Sykes prevented the order that would grant the police access to the court to investigate the fraud. The Chief Justice McCullough, to prove, just question her to remind the police that we did file the complaint about what Chief Justice did and the disappearing files. She didn't do anything wrong. She's an innocent woman, just said the court, the police need to talk to her. Mr. Mark Golding, the then Minister of Justice, just to confirm what we said about filing a complaint with him, that he sent a letter over to the Chief Justice, Mrs. McCullough, and I think shortly after that, I was told that Mr. Golding had a course developed for judges to follow the rules. I don't know if it was just coincidence or the person was giving misinformation, but they need to talk to him about those events surrounding that activity. All the staff of John Graham, because they would know about everything, John Graham and company, all staff of Trevor Hallin, they would know about all the activities and what's going on. Charles Gordon, that's the guy they paid to stay on the property and to drive my agents off. But of course, he couldn't be successful there. Had a whole bunch of young guys who were there. So you know what that means. Again, the daughter of Charles Gordon, who literally moved into the main house, and so that my people couldn't be in there, and eventually we got them out, obviously. But they were being paid to stay in there. And in fact, Charles Gordon and daughter told me directly that there were people waiting for me in the yard whenever I was here for court, and said they were trying to warn me. So I didn't have any bad relationship with them, obviously. Police of Area 1 to confirm the trespass filed, letters which I just read, and to the fraud squad, which is illegal, of course. That's disinformation, that's defamation, that's also public mischief to file something that no go so. All right. Staff at the Supreme Court, because they know about all this activity. All of them who handle the files. Angwin, what's her name? I said her name was Angwin, registrar, who refused to reset the matter. She must explain to the police. Justice B. Morrison, how did you get authorization to appoint somebody to a New York trust and then go in and tell people you don't want to hear anything from them about their property when the Constitution says you don't have that right to do so? The rules of the court say it, the Constitution say it, and I read it yesterday, no property of any description. And this is what he did. When he did that, he was taking our property. The court did, the Constitution says it's illegal. So the police must say to Justice B. Morris, why did you step outside your jurisdiction and enforce these illegal activity, which is unconstitutional, against the people who own the property legally and by orders of the court and documentation, and you refuse to correct that mistake when you had the opportunity? So you must explain. Kirk Anderson, why did you refuse to recognize the people who own the property, deliberately reset the matter to a time when the assessment of damages was set for, and after they came to that hearing, you showed up again, which is unusual again, and then you say you're not going to do it because they had withdrawn the matter for damages. And on top of that, allowing Alexis Robbins, which is a proven fraudster, a proven conspirator to defraud these people, you allowed her to participate, allowed her to make arguments, gave her instructions to file documents. You need to explain to the cops, and so that you could be removed for your unethical behavior, your bad behavior. Because under the Judicial Service Commission Act, a judge can be removed for bad behavior, and if that's not bad behavior, I don't know what is. Same thing for Justice Morrison. And Sykes, a judge who refused to withdraw injunction. All the judges who refused to withdraw the injunctions on the three matters need to investigate Lauren Gallagher. She needs to be locked up for filing the fraud. Steve Rapier needs to be locked up for filing fraudulent documents under the Law Reform Fraudulent Transaction Act. The VP of Capital One, don't know if he should, he's a part of the whole conspiracy, obviously, but he actually didn't do anything illegal. He filed affidavits in the matter, and we have to go skirt through the affidavit to see if he made any allegations of ownership in this particular matter. But yes, the affidavit was saying that they were trustees for the Alexander Burnham estate, and that's a contradiction. Remember, a trustee can't manage an estate because he's not executor, and it's not vice versa. So yeah, there's some illegality there, but he gave the undertaking, and then we want to find out why is it that they're taking action not to pay an undertaking for damages which they gave. And I'll say that because they filed a demeanor in the Virginia courts, where they were begging the court not to enforce the injunction. And that's the other thing we put in front of the court, re-damages. That these people gave undertaking, now they're trying to get out of it by these nefarious activities. And not only did they do that, they filed a demeanor in the U.S. court to say, begging the judge not to enforce the undertaking, especially because we didn't have the final order from the Supreme Court of Jamaica. So why are you doing that when you gave an undertaking? Because that's fraud. You gave something so that the court would give you an advantage over these people, and then when you got it and you're supposed to pay for the damages, now you're trying to say you're not paying for it. That's fraud. All right. Board members of Cap One, that we sent letters, which I already pointed out in earlier videos, saying we notified them about what was happening, the lawsuits, that they owed us money, that there was this outstanding debt that they needed to pay. We haven't heard anything from them. Okay, the DPP staff, which we went there and asked them if this is fraud, and they said it was, but they had to wait on a file from the JCF. And the Integrity Commission, why is that we filed a complaint before you acknowledge receiving one recently, and we haven't gotten that report yet, even though it deals with the same situation? Is this the kind of games that's playing? So we want to find out, why did you suppress the evidence that was filed to you? And now we file evidence here again, it's all over and it's obviously fraud. Why did you not prosecute or press the issue or take advantage? Of course, service processor who disappeared, I'm not going to call his name, I'll give that to the officers when they start investigate. Then we talk about Nicola Della Pena, the realtor from Remax, major player in the fraud to sell the property and illegal conversion from us for 1.5 million US dollars when we didn't owe them any money. And even if we owe them money, even if we owe them $600,000, what are you going to do with the other $900 and something thousand? You're going to pocket the money and run with it, because that money would be ours. All right. So those illegal activities, and again, there are a whole host of other persons the police can. But this is saying you have more than enough people to interview, and again, you really don't need in most cases, because the affidavits are already in the court's records, and you can just go there and pull them, compile them, catalog them, put them in a flow chart as evidence, and go ahead and prosecute the people. And so we could put closure there. I want to wind up at this point on that, and tomorrow I'm going to do a video, or later I'm going to do a video on why the court is in the shambles it's in because it was designed to be just that way, especially with how they set up the court to operate, how they have the same people who you have to go to for relief, for the same people. If you file a charge against them, they're the same ones that must make a decision in the matter. And so, I'm going to make a commentary on that. So thank you. Have a great day. And again, please share and subscribe, because again, my goal is not just to get the videos out, but to build a community so that we can effect change. I've indicated I'm willing to put money there, my time, my energy, and what little knowledge I have. And I'm encouraging you to participate, because my brain is not big enough or young enough to continue the fight. Long term, we need this to be a permanent solution. And so I'm asking everybody who listens to these videos, get together with people that have a concern. As I said the other day, don't waste your valuable brain on just soap opera and TV stuff and what's happening in Hollywood and all of that. Or even on the crime, because what we're doing will help fix or solve the crime in Jamaica. And hopefully we can then extend that to other areas, especially in Haiti, because they're in dire need of solutions that once we implement workable solutions, we can transfer that to places like Haiti. Because Haiti is a viral threat to us right now. Because all those people who are depressed are going to be flooding Jamaica. All those criminals over there can take the boats and come over and start committing crimes. They're selling guns already over here. So please, sorry, take this seriously and let's fix it. We can do it. And the solution I'm putting forward, we do it independently without government involvement, because we want to keep them out and then insist that they implement policy that keeps government out of these organizations. Because you shouldn't have government on any regulatory body that's in conflict with the management of the government itself, the PM and all of that. Shouldn't be. It doesn't make sense. So thanks again. Have a great day. Looking forward to a productive rest of our lives. Thank you. Bye.